The rain hammered against the windshield as Chen gripped the steering wheel, squinting through the downpour at the winding mountain road ahead, when suddenly a figure stumbled into her headlights, waving frantically for help. She slammed on the brakes, her heart racing as the car skidded slightly on the wet asphalt before coming to a stop. Through the rain-blurred glass, she could make out a man in what looked like an expensive suit, completely drenched and covered in mud. Maya hesitated for only a moment before rolling down her window halfway. "Are you okay?" she called out over the sound of the storm. The man jogged to her window, water streaming down his face. "My car went off the road about half a mile back. My phone's dead, and I've been walking for 20 minutes without seeing another vehicle. Can you help me?" Maya studied him quickly. He looked genuinely distressed, not dangerous. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead, and despite the mud and rain, she could tell the suit he wore probably cost more than her monthly rent. Still, leaving someone stranded in a storm like this was not an option. "Get in," she said, unlocking the doors. He rushed around to the passenger side and climbed in, bringing a wave of cold air and rain with him. "Thank you so much. I'm Adrian, Maya, and you're getting my seats wet, but I guess that's unavoidable." She pulled back onto the road carefully, her wipers working overtime. "Where were you heading?" "There's supposed to be a lodge about 10 miles up the mountain. I had a business meeting there, but obviously I'm not making it on time now." He ran a hand through his wet hair, grimacing. "I took the turn too fast in this weather. Rookie mistake. Are you hurt?" "Just my pride." He offered her a self-deprecating smile, "and possibly my insurance premium." Despite the situation, Maya found herself smiling. "Well, the lodge is where I'm heading to. I work there as the event coordinator. What kind of business meeting happens during a storm warning?" "The kind with stubborn millionaires who refuse to reschedule," Adrian said, then paused. "Sorry, that sounded pretentious." "A little," Maya admitted, navigating a particularly sharp curve. "But at least you're self-aware about it." They drove in silence for a few minutes, the only sounds the rain and the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers. Maya stole a glance at her unexpected passenger. Even soaked and disheveled, there was something striking about him. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed thoughtful even in distress, and an air of quiet confidence that wealth often brought. "So what kind of business are you in?" she asked, more to fill the silence than genuine curiosity. "Real estate development. Hotels, resorts, that kind of thing." "I'm actually looking at potentially acquiring the lodge you work at." He shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable in his wet clothes. "Sorry, I'm dripping all over everything." Maya's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The lodge had been her workplace for 3 years, and rumors of a potential sale had been swirling for months. The staff was worried about layoffs, changes, losing the family atmosphere that made Peak Haven Lodge special. "So you're the mystery buyer everyone's been whispering about," she said, her tone cooling slightly. Adrian picked up on it immediately. "I take it you're not thrilled about the prospect." "The lodge is more than just a business. It's a community. The owner, Margaret, she built it from the ground up 40 years ago. The staff has been there for years, some of them decades. We're not just worried about our jobs. We're worried about losing something that matters." "I understand that," Adrian said quietly. "But Margaret is 73 and ready to retire. Her children have no interest in running the place. If I don't buy it, someone else will, and they might not care about preserving what makes it special." Maya wanted to argue, but she could not deny the logic. She had seen Margaret struggling with the physical demands of running the lodge, watched her worry about its future. Still, the idea of corporate ownership, of changes and renovations that might strip away the lodge's character, made her stomach twist. "Just promise me you'll actually spend time there before making decisions," she said. "Walk the halls, talk to the staff, eat in the dining room. Understand what you're buying before you change it." "I promise," Adrian said, and something in his voice made her believe him. The lodge finally appeared through the rain, its warm lights glowing like a beacon. Maya pulled into the covered entrance, and they both hurried inside, trailing water across the polished wooden floors. The lobby was cozy and rustic, with a massive stone fireplace crackling at one end and comfortable leather furniture arranged in conversational clusters. Margaret herself was at the front desk, her silver hair pulled back in its customary bun. Her eyes widened when she saw them. "Maya, dear, we were getting worried, and you must be Mr. Blackwood. Please call me Adrian, and I apologize for my appearance. I had a minor accident on the way up. Nothing serious, I hope. Just a bruised ego and a car that will need a tow truck." He smiled at her, and Maya noticed how the expression transformed his face, making him look younger and less intimidating. "Maya rescued me from walking the rest of the way in the storm." Margaret beamed at Maya. "That's our girl, always ready to help. Why don't you both go get dried off and into some warm clothes? Adrian, we have guest rooms ready for you. The meeting can wait until you're comfortable." As they headed toward the stairs, Maya caught Adrian's arm. "Your meeting? Who else was supposed to be there?" "My business partner, my lawyer, and Margaret's lawyer. But honestly, after the day I've had, I'd rather postpone until tomorrow morning if Margaret is agreeable." "I'll let her know," Maya said. "Your room is on the 3rd floor, room 307. There should be a robe and some basics in the bathroom. I can have someone bring up some dry clothes if you tell me your size. I actually have luggage in my car, but that's not exactly accessible right now." He gave her another one of those transforming smiles. "I'm a large in shirts, 34 waist in pants. Whatever you can find would be appreciated." Maya nodded and headed to her own small office off the main corridor. She kept a change of clothes there for emergencies, and she peeled off her damp sweater and jeans gratefully, replacing them with a soft burgundy dress and leggings. As she towel-dried her long black hair, she found herself thinking about Adrian Blackwood. He was not what she expected. Most wealthy businessmen she had encountered at the lodge were either condescending or distant, treating the staff as invisible. Adrian had been polite, even vulnerable, and when he smiled, something warm had flickered in her chest that she firmly told herself to ignore. He was potentially her future boss, and more importantly, he represented change she was not sure she wanted. She made a few calls and arranged for some clothes to be brought up to Adrian's room, then checked on the evening's events. There was a small wedding party having dinner in the main dining room, and a couple celebrating their anniversary in the private wine cellar room. Everything was running smoothly as usual. By the time she made her way back to the lobby, the storm had intensified. Wind howled outside the windows, and the lights flickered briefly before holding steady. Margaret was directing staff to place candles around the public spaces, a precaution in case they lost power. "Maya, could you check on Mr. Blackwood?" Margaret asked. "Make sure he has everything he needs. And perhaps invite him to join us for dinner in the private dining room. It seems wrong to make him eat alone after the day he has had." "Of course," Maya said, though her stomach did a small flip at the prospect. She climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, her footsteps muffled by the plush carpet runner. When she knocked on room 307, Adrian answered almost immediately. He had changed into the jeans and Henley shirt she had sent up, and his hair was still damp but no longer dripping. The casual clothes suited him better than the ruined suit had, making him look more approachable and less like a corporate shark. Perfect fit, he said, gesturing to the clothes. Thank you for this. Margaret wanted me to invite you to have dinner with us in the private dining room. Just her, myself, and usually a few of the senior staff. It's more comfortable than eating alone. Adrian hesitated. I don't want to intrude on your traditions. You're not intruding. Margaret invited you. Besides, you wanted to understand the lodge and the people who work here. This is a good start. Then I accept. When? 7 o'clock. I'll come get you. Maya spent the next hour finalizing details for the next day's events and checking in with the kitchen staff. The head chef, Antonio, was in his element, preparing a special menu for the private dinner. He had been at the lodge for 15 years and could read Margaret's moods better than anyone. So this is the man who wants to buy our home, Antonio said, stirring a pot of soup with more force than necessary. What is he like? Honestly, I'm not sure yet. He seems decent enough, but we will see. You rescued him from the storm, I heard. Very dramatic. Antonio waggled his eyebrows at her. And he is handsome, no? Maria from housekeeping said he looks like a movie star. Antonio, Maya said warningly, but she could feel her cheeks heating. I am just observing. You have not dated anyone since that disaster with Trevor 2 years ago. Maybe a handsome millionaire is exactly what you need. Or maybe a handsome millionaire is exactly what I don't need, considering he might be my boss soon. Don't matchmake. But Antonio just grinned and returned to his cooking. At 7 o'clock, Maya went back upstairs to collect Adrian. He was ready, looking more relaxed than he had earlier. As they walked downstairs together, he glanced around at the lodge with what seemed like genuine interest. This place has good bones, he said. Original woodwork, quality craftsmanship. You don't see this kind of attention to detail in modern builds. Margaret refused to cut corners. She said if you're going to create a place where people make memories, it has to be built to last. The private dining room was smaller than the main one, with a single long table that could seat 12. Tonight, there were only 6 place settings. Margaret was already there, along with Tom, the maintenance supervisor who had been with the lodge since it opened, and Grace, the head of housekeeping. Dinner was one of Antonio's masterpieces. Butternut squash soup, herb-crusted salmon, roasted vegetables, and a chocolate torte that made everyone groan with pleasure. The conversation flowed easily, with Margaret sharing stories about the lodge's history and the various celebrities and dignitaries who had stayed there over the years. Adrian listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. When Tom mentioned the challenge of maintaining the old heating system, Adrian did not dismiss it or talk about replacement costs. Instead, he asked about the system's history, whether parts were still available, and what Tom thought would serve the lodge best long-term. You actually care about the answers, Grace observed, studying Adrian with shrewd eyes. Most people in your position would have already decided what they're going to do. I've learned that the people who work in a place every day understand it better than any consultant's report can capture, Adrian replied. If I'm lucky enough to become the owner here, I'll be relying heavily on all of you to help me make smart decisions. Maya watched him as he spoke, noticing the way he made eye contact with each person, how he seemed genuinely engaged rather than just politely going through motions. There was a warmth to him that surprised her, a sense that beneath the business acumen was someone who actually cared about people. After dinner, Margaret excused herself, citing fatigue. Tom and Grace followed soon after, leaving Maya and Adrian alone with their coffee and the dying fire in the room's small fireplace. They're good people, Adrian said quietly. Margaret built something special here. I can see why you're protective of it. Are you going to change everything? Maya asked, the question that had been burning in her mind all evening. I'm going to change what needs changing to keep the lodge viable. The roof needs work, the plumbing is antiquated in some sections, and the marketing could be stronger. But the heart of this place, the atmosphere, the way it makes people feel welcome, that's untouchable. He met her eyes steadily. I promise you, Maya, I'm not here to destroy what Margaret built. I'm here to preserve it. Why? The word came out more forcefully than she intended. You could buy a dozen other properties that would be easier investments. Why this one? Adrian was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup. When he spoke, his voice was softer. When I was 12, my parents brought me to a place like this. A mountain lodge, family-run, full of character. We spent a week there, and it was the last vacation we took as a family before my father's company collapsed and everything fell apart. I've spent my entire adult life building a business, making money, being successful. But I never forgot that feeling of being in a place that felt like home. When I heard Peak Haven was for sale, I wanted to see if I could recapture that, maybe give that experience to other people. The vulnerability in his admission caught Maya off guard. This was not the smooth businessman she had expected, but someone who carried his own memories and motivations. Before she could respond, the lights flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness broken only by the firelight. Backup generators should kick in any second, Maya said, but after a full minute of darkness she frowned. Or maybe not. I should check on it. I'll come with you, Adrian said, pulling out his phone and turning on its flashlight. They made their way through the dark corridors, Maya guiding them from memory more than sight. The backup generator was in the basement, accessible through a door off the kitchen. As they descended the stairs, Maya grabbed flashlights from an emergency cabinet. The generator room was cold and smelled faintly of oil. Maya checked the control panel, her frown deepening. It tried to start but failed. Tom will need to look at it, but he lives 15 minutes away and in this storm. Let me see, Adrian said, moving closer. I worked construction summers during college. I might be able to figure it out. For the next 20 minutes, they worked together, Maya holding the flashlight while Adrian examined the generator's components. He asked her to check the fuel line, adjusted something in the control panel, and finally pressed the start button. The generator coughed, sputtered, and rumbled to life. Seconds later, the basement lights flickered on. You did it, Maya said, genuinely impressed. Adrian straightened, wiping his hands on his jeans and leaving dark smudges. Beginner's luck, or maybe muscle memory. Either way, I'm going to need another shower. They climbed back upstairs to find staff members emerging from various rooms, relieved that the power was back. Maya made the rounds, ensuring all the guests were comfortable, and that nothing had been damaged during the outage. By the time she finished, it was nearly 10 o'clock. She found Adrian back in the lobby, sitting by the fire with a book he must have found on one of the shelves. He looked up when she approached, setting the book aside. Everything okay? He asked. All good. The wedding party thought it was romantic, actually. They were dancing by candlelight in the dining room. She sat down in the chair across from him. Thank you for your help with the generator. That was above and beyond. I enjoyed it. It has been a long time since I've done anything hands-on like that. Most of my work now involves conference calls and spreadsheets. He leaned back, studying her. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why events? What made you want to be an event coordinator? Maya considered the question. I like making people happy. I know that sounds simple, but there is something magical about taking someone's vision for their wedding or anniversary or whatever and making it real. I get to be part of their important moments, help create memories they will carry forever. It's not a particularly glamorous job, and it does not pay as well as other things I could do with my degree, but it feels meaningful. What's your degree in? Business management with a minor in hospitality. I could probably be managing a hotel somewhere, climbing the corporate ladder, but I like it here. I like knowing everyone's name, being part of a community instead of just an employee. Adrian nodded slowly. That's exactly what makes this place special, that sense of community. If you were running Peak Haven, what would you change? The question surprised her. Are you asking my opinion as the event coordinator or as someone who might have good ideas? Both. Either. I'm genuinely curious. Maya thought about it. I'd expand our wedding packages. We get a lot of inquiries but have to turn people away because we can only handle small ceremonies. If we converted the old barn on the property into an event space, we could host larger weddings and probably double our event revenue. I'd also partner with local adventure companies to offer package deals, hiking and skiing and rafting combined with lodging. And I'd renovate the spa area. It's dated, and if we upgraded it, we could attract more couples and wellness retreats. Those are all excellent ideas, Adrian said. Have you proposed them to Margaret? I've mentioned them, but she does not have the capital to invest in major renovations, and she is at a stage in her life where she does not want to take on that kind of project. I understand it. She's earned her retirement. What if the new owner wanted to implement those ideas? Would you be interested in taking on a bigger role, maybe as the operations manager? Maya's heart skipped. Are you offering me a job? I haven't even bought the place yet, Adrian said with a smile. But hypothetically, if I did, I'd need someone who understands the lodge and has good ideas for its future. You fit that description. That's a conversation for another day, Maya said, though excitement fluttered in her chest. Right now, you should probably get some sleep. We're supposed to have your official tour and meeting tomorrow morning. You're right. But Maya, he waited until she looked at him. Thank you for today, for picking me up, for helping with the generator, for being honest with me about this place. It means more than you probably realize. As Maya lay in bed that night in her small apartment above the lodge, she could not stop thinking about Adrian Blackwood. There was something about him that intrigued her, a complexity beneath the wealthy businessman exterior. The way he had rolled up his sleeves and fixed the generator, the vulnerability when he talked about his childhood, the genuine interest he showed in the lodge and its people. It was dangerous, this growing fascination. He was not staying. He would buy the lodge or he would not, but either way, he would return to his world of high-rise offices and business deals. She could not let herself forget that. But when she finally drifted off to sleep, her dreams were full of dark eyes and transforming smiles. The next morning dawned clear and bright, the storm having passed during the night. Maya was up early as always, checking that breakfast service was running smoothly and reviewing the day's schedule. The official meeting between Adrian and Margaret was set for 10 o'clock, followed by a comprehensive tour of the property. She was in the dining room, adjusting a flower arrangement when Adrian walked in. He looked refreshed and professional in dark slacks and a button-down shirt, his hair still slightly damp from the shower. "Good morning," he said, his voice warm. "Is it too early for coffee?" "Never too early for coffee. Help yourself to the breakfast buffet. Antonio makes the best cinnamon rolls you will ever taste." Maya watched as Adrian filled a plate and poured coffee, then settled at a table by the window overlooking the mountains. She should walk away, attend to her duties, but instead, she found herself drifting over to his table. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. "I haven't eaten yet, please." He gestured to the chair across from him. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching as the morning sun painted the mountains in shades of gold and pink. Other guests filtered in gradually, and Maya noted with satisfaction that everyone seemed relaxed and happy. "You were right about the cinnamon rolls," Adrian said. Antonio is a genius. Wait until you try his dinner service. He's won awards. I'm looking forward to it, and to the tour later. I want to see everything, especially that barn you mentioned. The morning meeting went smoothly. Margaret's lawyer presented all the financial documents and legal paperwork. Adrian's team participated via video call, asking questions and reviewing details. Maya sat in as a representative of the staff, providing operational insights when requested. By noon, the preliminary agreement was in place. Adrian would conduct a thorough inspection of the property over the next week, and if everything checked out, the sale would be finalized within 60 days. Margaret looked relieved but also wistful, her eyes misty as she shook Adrian's hand. "Take care of my baby," she said softly. "I promise," Adrian replied, and Maya could hear the sincerity in his voice. After lunch, Maya led Adrian on the comprehensive property tour. They started with the main building, moving through each floor as she explained the layout and the history of different sections. Adrian took notes on his phone, asked detailed questions, and occasionally stopped to examine architectural details or take photos. The lodge had 42 guest rooms in the main building, ranging from cozy standards to luxurious suites. There was the main dining room, the private dining room they had eaten in the previous night, a library, a game room, and a small spa area that definitely needed updating. The public spaces were beautifully maintained, but showing their age in places. "The bones are solid," Adrian said as they walked. "Most of what needs updating is cosmetic or mechanical. That's good news for preserving the character." They bundled up in coats and headed outside to explore the grounds. The property sprawled across 15 acres, with hiking trails, a small lake, and various outbuildings. The barn Maya had mentioned sat about 200 yards from the main lodge, a beautiful structure with good bones but in need of significant work. Adrian walked around it slowly, examining the foundation, the walls, the roof. "This has potential. It would cost a fair amount to convert it, but the location is perfect. Views of the mountains, close enough to the main building for convenience but far enough for privacy. You're right that this could be a fantastic event space." "I've already sketched out ideas," Meyer admitted. "Where the bride's suite could go, how to arrange seating, what kind of lighting would work best. I know it's premature, but I couldn't help myself. I'd love to see those sketches." Adrian pulled out his phone, frowning at the screen. "Sorry, I need to take this call. It's my business partner. Do you mind if I step away for a few minutes?" "Take your time. I'll be by the lake." Maya wandered down to the water's edge, breathing in the crisp mountain air. The lake was calm today, reflecting the sky like glass. She loved it here, loved the peace and beauty of the mountains, the rhythm of the seasons. The idea of change still unsettled her, but if Adrian was true to his word, maybe it would not be as bad as she feared. She was so lost in thought that she did not hear him approach until he spoke. "Penny for your thoughts." She turned to find Adrian standing a few feet away, his phone tucked back into his pocket. "Just thinking about how much I love this place. I grew up in the city, and when I first came here for a job interview, I knew immediately that I wanted to stay. There is something about the mountains that feels like home. I understand that feeling." He moved to stand beside her, both of them gazing out at the water. "My business partner thinks I'm crazy for taking this on. He says it's too small, too niche, not worth my time. But standing here, I know I'm making the right decision." "Can I ask you something?" Maya said. "What happened with your family after that vacation you mentioned?" Adrian was quiet for so long that she thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "My father's company went bankrupt. Bad investments, some bad luck, and suddenly we lost everything. We had to move, change schools, start over. My parents' marriage didn't survive it. They divorced 2 years later and my mom moved across the country. My father threw himself into rebuilding, working constantly. I barely saw him through high school. He died of a heart attack when I was in college. I'm sorry, Maya said softly. It was a long time ago, but it taught me that money and success aren't everything. That the moments that matter are the ones spent with people you care about in places that feel like home. I built my business to be successful, to never worry about financial security again. But somewhere along the way, I forgot what I was working for. This lodge, it reminds me. Without thinking, Maya reached out and touched his arm. I think Margaret chose the right person to take over. Adrian looked down at her hand, then up at her face, and something shifted in the air between them. The moment stretched, filled with unspoken possibilities until Maya pulled her hand back, suddenly aware of boundaries and complications. We should head back, she said. It's getting cold. That evening, Adrian joined the staff for their weekly dinner, a tradition where everyone who was not on duty shared a meal in the private dining room. It was loud and chaotic, with people talking over each other, sharing stories and jokes. Adrian fit in surprisingly well, laughing at Antonio's terrible puns and listening to Grace's tales of her grandchildren. Maya sat across from him, watching him interact with her colleagues, her friends. He was different here than he had been in the business meeting. Relaxed, genuine, fully present. When he caught her looking at him, he smiled, and she felt that flutter in her chest again. After dinner, people drifted away gradually until only Maya and Adrian remained, sitting by the fire with glasses of wine. "Your coworkers are wonderful," Adrian said. "The way everyone interacts, it's like a family." That's what Margaret always encouraged. She said happy staff means happy guests. She's not wrong. He swirled the wine in his glass. "I've stayed at hundreds of hotels, and I can always tell within 5 minutes whether the staff enjoys working there. It shows in every interaction, every detail. That's what makes this place special and what I want to preserve." "You keep saying that, but how do we know you mean it?" "No offense, but business owners say a lot of things that don't pan out." "Fair point." Adrian set down his glass and turned to face her fully. "Here's what I propose. I'm going to be here for the next week doing the property inspection. Let me prove myself. Watch how I interact with people, what questions I ask, what decisions I make. If at the end of the week you still think I'm going to ruin this place, I want you to tell me." "Deal." Maya considered it. "Deal. But I'm going to be honest, and you might not like what I have to say." "I'm counting on your honesty. That's what makes you valuable." Over the next few days, Maya found herself spending more time with Adrian than she had anticipated. He shadowed different staff members each day, learning the operations from every angle. He followed Antonio in the kitchen, helped Tom with maintenance rounds, even joined the housekeeping staff as they cleaned rooms. He was not afraid to get his hands dirty, to ask basic questions, to admit when he did not understand something. Maya coordinated a wedding on the 3rd day of his visit, and Adrian asked if he could observe. She agreed, curious to see how he would react to the organized chaos of event execution. The couple getting married were locals, and they had chosen Peak Haven because the bride's parents had gotten married there 30 years earlier. It was a small ceremony, only 50 guests, but full of heart. Adrian stayed out of the way but watched everything with keen attention. Maya caught him smiling during the vows, and later, when the couple had their first dance, she saw him taking photos of the venue setup, the decorations, and the way the space was arranged. During the reception, while Maya was coordinating with the catering staff, one of the guests tripped and spilled red wine all over the front of her dress. The woman was mortified, close to tears. Before Maya could respond, Adrian was there with a glass of club soda and a calm demeanor. "This happened to me at an important dinner once," he told the woman. "The trick is club soda and salt. If you give me 2 minutes, I can get most of this out." He worked quickly, chatting with the woman to distract her from her embarrassment, and within minutes, the stain was significantly reduced. The woman thanked him profusely, and Adrian brushed it off with a smile before melting back into the background. Maya caught up with him later, after the couple had departed and the cleanup was underway. "That was kind of you, and impressive. You really do know the club soda trick. I wasn't lying about that dinner. I spilled an entire glass of Cabernet on myself right before a crucial presentation. My assistant at the time saved me, and I never forgot it. Basic stain removal should be part of everyone's education." They walked back to the main lodge together, the evening cool and clear. The property was beautiful in the moonlight, peaceful and perfect. "You were amazing today," Adrian said. "The way you coordinated everything, kept all the moving parts synchronized. That couple will remember this day forever, and you made it happen." "It's my job," Maya said, but she felt pleased by the compliment. "It's more than a job for you. I can see it in how you work, how you care about every detail. You're not just coordinating events, you're creating experiences." They had reached the main entrance, but neither of them moved to go inside. The moment felt suspended, private, and Maya was hyper-aware of how close Adrian was standing, how his eyes seemed darker in the dim light. "Maya," he said softly, and she could hear something in his voice that made her pulse quicken. But before he could continue, the door burst open and Tom rushed out. "Maya, we have a situation. The Hendersons in room 214, the husband is having chest pains. We have called an ambulance, but they are 20 minutes out." The moment shattered. Maya snapped into crisis mode, Adrian right behind her as they hurried inside. The next half hour was tense and frightening, with Maya coordinating with emergency services while Adrian stayed with the couple, keeping them calm until the paramedics arrived. It turned out to be a panic attack rather than a heart attack, but it had been terrifying nonetheless. By the time everything settled down, and the Hendersons were safely checked out at the local hospital with a clean bill of health, it was after midnight. Maya sat in her office, suddenly exhausted, when Adrian appeared in the doorway with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Thought you could use this," he said. "You're a lifesaver." She accepted the mug gratefully, wrapping her cold hands around its warmth. "Thank you for your help tonight." "You didn't have to stay, but I'm glad you did." "Of course I stayed." He settled into the chair across from her desk. "You handled that incredibly well. You kept everyone calm, communicated clearly with the emergency services, and took care of the other guests who were worried." "That's real leadership." "I was terrified," Maya admitted. "I kept thinking, what if it's serious? What if we can't help in time? What if everything goes wrong? But you didn't let that fear stop you from doing what needed to be done. That's courage." He took a sip of his hot chocolate. "Can I tell you something? I've been in business for 15 years. I've managed multi-million-dollar projects, negotiated high-stakes deals, and overseen hundreds of employees. And watching you tonight, I realized you're a better leader than most CEOs I know. You lead with heart, with genuine care for people. That's rare and valuable." Maya felt tears prick her eyes, exhaustion and emotion combining. "That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. I mean every word." Adrian leaned forward, his expression serious. "Maya, I know we have not known each other long, but I want you to know that I see you, not just as the event coordinator or a potential employee, but as someone remarkable. Someone who makes everything around her better just by being present." The words hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. She knew she should keep this professional, maintain boundaries, but something in Adrian's eyes made her want to throw caution away. Adrian, she started, but was interrupted by her phone ringing. It was the hospital, calling to let them know that Mr. Henderson was being discharged and they would return to the lodge in the morning. By the time she hung up, the moment had passed and Adrian was standing. "You should get some sleep," he said. "We both should, but Maya, we should talk soon." "Really talk?" She nodded, not trusting her voice, and watched him leave. Alone in her office, she pressed her hands to her flushed cheeks and tried to steady her racing heart. Something was happening between them, something that felt inevitable and terrifying in equal measure. The next day was sunny and busy, with new guests checking in and a corporate retreat taking over the conference room. Maya was grateful for the distraction, throwing herself into work to avoid thinking about Adrian and the conversation they needed to have. But that evening, as she was finishing up paperwork, he found her again. "Do you have plans for dinner?" "Just whatever Antonio left in the staff kitchen." "Why?" "There's a restaurant about 30 minutes from here that I've heard good things about. Would you like to go?" We could talk, away from the lodge and all the interruptions. Maya knew she should say no, knew that going to dinner with him alone was crossing a line, but she found herself nodding anyway. "Give me 20 minutes to change." She rushed to her apartment, quickly trading her work clothes for a dark green sweater dress and boots. She left her hair down, applied a touch of makeup, and tried not to think too hard about what she was doing. Adrian was waiting in the lobby, and his eyes widened appreciatively when he saw her. "You look beautiful." "Thank you." She felt shy suddenly, nervous in a way she had not felt in years. "Should we go?" They took Adrian's rental car, a sleek sedan that had been delivered to replace his wrecked vehicle. The drive took them down the mountain and through a small town, ending at a rustic restaurant built into the side of a hill. Inside, it was cozy and intimate, with exposed brick walls and candlelight. They were seated at a corner table, private and quiet. Maya ordered salmon, Adrian chose steak, and they shared a bottle of wine. For a while they talked about safe topics, the lodge, the area, and Maya's background. She told him about growing up in Seattle, about her parents who were both teachers, about deciding to leave the city for mountain life. But as the evening progressed and the wine relaxed them both, the conversation deepened. Adrian talked more about his father, about the pressure he had felt to succeed, to prove himself. He spoke about building his company from nothing, about the satisfaction and emptiness that came with achieving his goals. "I've spent so much time focused on success that I forgot to build a life," he admitted. "I have money, respect, professional accomplishment. But I don't have close friends anymore. I haven't been in a serious relationship in over 3 years. I work constantly, and for what? To make more money I don't need, to impress people I don't care about." "Is that why you want the lodge? To change direction?" "Partly. But also because when I walked into Peak Haven for the first time, I felt something I haven't felt in years. A sense of possibility, of connection. And then you picked me up in that storm, and I saw how you talked about the lodge, how passionate you were about protecting it. I wanted to be part of that, part of something that matters beyond profit margins." Maya set down her wine glass, her hand trembling slightly. "Adrian, I need to be honest with you. I'm scared of what's happening between us." "What is happening between us?" he asked quietly. "I don't know exactly, but I feel it. This pull, this connection. And it terrifies me because you're about to be my boss, and you live a completely different life than I do, and I can't see how this ends well." Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was warm, solid, grounding. "I feel it too. I've felt it since that moment in your car when you smiled at my stupid joke about my insurance premium. And you're right that the circumstances are complicated. But Maya, I haven't felt this way about someone in longer than I can remember. I don't want to ignore it just because it's inconvenient. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we see where this goes. Carefully, honestly, with full awareness of the complications. I'm not going to be your boss in any traditional sense. I'll own the lodge, but you'll run the operations day to day. We can establish clear boundaries professionally, and personally, we can take this as slowly as you need. Maya looked down at their joined hands. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a bad idea, that she should pull away and maintain professional distance. But her heart, that traitorous organ, whispered something different. I must be crazy, she said softly. But okay, let's see where this goes. Adrian's smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. You won't regret this. I promise. They talked for hours more, losing track of time until the waiter politely informed them that the restaurant was closing. The drive back to the lodge was quiet but comfortable, the air between them charged with possibility. When they arrived back, Adrian walked Maya to her apartment door. They stood in the hallway, neither quite ready to say goodnight. Thank you for tonight, Adrian said. For being honest with me, for giving this a chance. Thank you for dinner, and for being patient with my neuroses. He laughed softly. Your neuroses are perfectly reasonable. He hesitated, then leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, he kissed her gently, a soft brush of lips that made her entire body light up like electricity was running through her veins. When they parted, both were breathing a little harder. Good night, Maya, Adrian whispered. Good night, she managed, and slipped inside her apartment before she could do something reckless like pull him in with her. The next few days passed in a blur of work and stolen moments. Adrian completed his property inspection, finding nothing that would prevent the sale from moving forward. Margaret was delighted, already making plans for her retirement to Arizona where her daughter lived. Maya and Adrian were careful to maintain professionalism during work hours, but in the evenings, they found time to be together. They took walks around the property, had long conversations by the fire, and shared meals in quiet corners. Adrian was different than any man Maya had dated before. He listened more than he talked, asked thoughtful questions, and seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts and opinions. One evening, they were sitting on a bench overlooking the lake when Adrian said, "Tell me about your dreams. Not the work ones, but the personal ones. What do you want your life to look like in 5 years?" Maya thought about it. I want to still be here or somewhere like it. I want to be running events that matter, creating experiences for people. I'd like to have a family someday, kids who grow up running around in the mountains like wild things. I want a partner who sees me as an equal, who supports my ambitions but also challenges me to be better. And I want a garden. Is that silly? I've always wanted a big vegetable garden. That's not silly at all, it sounds perfect. Adrian was quiet for a moment. I want similar things. I want to build something lasting, something that matters. I want to stop working 80-hour weeks and actually enjoy my life. I want someone to come home to, someone who understands me, and I want to learn to cook. I'm terrible at it and it seems like a skill worth having. Maya laughed. I could teach you. I'm a decent cook when I have the time. I'd like that. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set behind the mountains. Maya felt a contentment she had not experienced in years, a sense that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. On Adrian's last evening at the lodge, before returning to the city to finalize paperwork and prepare for the official transition, Maya organized a special dinner. It was just the two of them in the private wine cellar room, with Antonio's best dishes and candlelight that made everything feel intimate and magical. They talked and laughed, sharing stories and dreams, and Maya felt herself falling harder with every passing moment. Adrian was kind and funny and brilliant, but more than that, he saw her. Really saw her in a way few people ever had. As dessert was being served, Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. His expression was serious, almost nervous. "Maya, I need to tell you something. I've been trying to find the right moment, the right words, but I don't think there is a perfect time for this." Her heart started racing. "What is it? Do you remember that first night when we were driving up the mountain and you were talking about the lodge, about why it matters? You were so passionate, so protective, and you had this way of explaining it that made me understand not just what the place was, but what it meant. And then you smiled at something I said and you laughed, and in that moment, something just clicked inside me." He paused, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. "I've loved you since the moment you laughed," the millionaire admits during a candlelit dinner date. "I know it sounds crazy. I know it's too soon, and we've only known each other a little over a week, but I can't deny what I feel. I've been in relationships before, Maya. I've dated, I've cared about people, but I have never felt like this. Like I found something I didn't even know I was looking for." Maya felt tears streaming down her cheeks. "Adrian, you don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "I'm not expecting you to feel the same way or to say it back or anything like that. I just needed you to know, needed to be honest about what's happening in my heart." But Maya was shaking her head, smiling through her tears. "That's the thing. I do feel the same way. I've been trying to talk myself out of it, telling myself it's too fast, too complicated, too risky. But the truth is, I'm falling in love with you too. Maybe I already have fallen. You came into my life like that storm, unexpected and powerful, and you've changed everything." Adrian stood and moved around the table, pulling her up and into his arms. He kissed her then, deeply and thoroughly, and Maya melted into him, feeling like she was coming home. When they finally parted, both breathless and smiling, Adrian pressed his forehead to hers. "I have to go back to the city tomorrow, but I'll be back in 2 weeks for the closing. And Maya, I want you to know that this isn't just about the lodge for me anymore. It's about you, about us, about building a life here together if you want that." "I want that," Maya whispered. "I want all of it." The next morning, saying goodbye was harder than Maya expected. She stood in the parking lot as Adrian loaded his bags into the rental car, trying not to cry. 2 weeks, he said, pulling her close, "and I'll call you every day. Probably multiple times a day if you'll tolerate it." "I'll tolerate it," she said with a watery laugh. He kissed her once more, long and sweet, then reluctantly pulled away. "I love you, Maya Chen. I love you too, Adrian Blackwood." She watched him drive away, her heart full and aching in equal measure. The lodge felt emptier without him, even though they had only been together such a short time. The next 2 weeks were a flurry of activity. Margaret worked with Maya to document all the operational procedures and introduce her to key contacts and suppliers. The staff buzzed with excitement about the upcoming changes, especially after Margaret assured them that everyone's jobs were secure and that Adrian had committed to maintaining the lodge's character. True to his word, Adrian called Maya every day. Sometimes they talked for hours, sharing details about their days, their thoughts, their plans for the future. Other times, it was just a few minutes, a quick check-in to hear each other's voices. Maya found herself falling more in love with every conversation, learning new facets of the man who had swept into her life so unexpectedly. He sent her flowers, beautiful arrangements that brightened her office. He sent her a book he thought she would enjoy, with a note in the cover that made her cry happy tears. And he sent her sketches, architectural drawings of his ideas for renovating the barn into the event space she had envisioned. I hired an architect to work up some concepts based on your description, he explained during one of their evening calls. I want you to look them over and tell me what you think. This is your vision, Maya. I'm just helping make it real. The day of the closing arrived bright and clear. Adrian arrived at the lodge mid-morning and Maya met him in the parking lot, unable to stop herself from running into his arms. I missed you, she said against his chest. I missed you too, so much. He held her tightly, breathing her in. God, 2 weeks felt like forever. The closing itself was anticlimactic, just paperwork and signatures and handshakes. But afterward, when Adrian officially owned Peak Haven Lodge, Margaret threw a celebration for the staff. There was champagne and cake, and everyone toasted to the lodge's future. Adrian gave a short speech, thanking Margaret for entrusting him with her legacy, and promising the staff that he would honor everything that made Peak Haven special. When he mentioned Maya by name, crediting her with helping him understand the lodge's heart, she felt her cheeks flush with pride and pleasure. Later, after the celebration had wound down and it was just the two of them again, Adrian led Maya outside. I want to show you something. They walked to the barn, and when Adrian opened the door, Maya gasped. Inside, someone had cleaned out all the old equipment and debris. The space was empty but full of potential, and hanging from the main beam was a sign that read, Maya's Vision. I know we can't start the renovation right away, Adrian said. There's a lot to do first, and we need to get through the busy season. But I wanted you to see this, to understand that I'm committed to making your ideas reality. This is our project, Maya. Ours. Maya turned to him, her eyes shining with tears. Our project, I like the sound of that. There's something else. Adrian pulled a small box from his pocket and Maya's breath caught. Before you panic, this is not an engagement ring. We've known each other less than a month, and I'm not that impulsive. But I wanted to give you something that symbolizes what we're building together. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a small pendant shaped like a mountain peak. So you'll always remember where we started and where we're going together. It's beautiful, Maya breathed. She turned so he could fasten it around her neck, the pendant settling just above her heart. Thank you. They stood together in the barn, surrounded by possibility, and kissed as the afternoon sun streamed through the windows. Over the following months, Maya and Adrian fell into a rhythm. He split his time between the lodge and his office in the city, gradually transitioning his other business responsibilities to his partners so he could focus on Peak Haven. Maya stepped into the role of operations manager, working closely with Adrian to implement improvements while maintaining the lodge's character. The romance between them deepened and matured. They had their first fight, about whether to replace the old carpeting in the hallways, with both of them so stubborn that Tom had to intervene and broker a compromise. They had their first real test when Adrian's mother visited, and made it clear she thought her son was wasting his potential on a small mountain lodge and a girl with no pedigree. Adrian had shut that down firmly, making it clear that Maya and the lodge were his priorities now, and if his mother could not be supportive, she was not welcome. They celebrated their first anniversary of meeting during another storm, recreating that first drive up the mountain, this time with Adrian playing the stranded motorist and Maya laughing as she pretended to reluctantly pick him up. They made love for the first time in Adrian's renovated owner's suite, a night of tender discovery that left them both breathless and bound even closer together. The barn renovation began in the spring, and Maya was involved in every decision. She chose the light fixtures, the flooring, and the layout. Adrian made sure the contractor understood that this project was personal and that every detail mattered. When it was finally completed 8 months later, the result was stunning, a perfect blend of rustic charm and modern elegance. The first wedding in the new event space was in June, a large ceremony with 200 guests. Maya coordinated every detail, and Adrian stayed in the background, watching her work with such pride and love that Grace teased him mercilessly. When the bride and groom had their first dance, Adrian found Maya standing at the back of the space, tears in her eyes. "Happy tears?" he asked, slipping his arm around her waist. "The happiest. This is everything I dreamed of, Adrian, everything we built together." "It's just the beginning," he said softly. "We have so many more dreams to make real." That evening, after the wedding guests had departed and the cleanup was complete, Adrian asked Maya to take a walk with him. They ended up at the lake, the spot where they had spent so many evenings talking and planning. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Adrian seemed nervous, his hand trembling slightly as he held hers. "Maya, we've been together for over a year now, and it has been the best year of my life. You've changed everything for me. You've taught me what really matters, what it means to build a life instead of just a career. You've made me happier than I ever thought possible." He dropped to one knee and Maya's heart stopped. From his pocket he pulled out a small velvet box. "I know I said that first gift wasn't an engagement ring because it was too soon, but now I think the timing is perfect. Maya Chen, I love you more than I can express. You're my partner, my best friend, my home. Will you marry me?" Through her tears, Maya could barely see the ring, a beautiful sapphire surrounded by diamonds that caught the dying light. "Yes," she managed. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, sweeping her into his arms and spinning her around. They laughed and cried and kissed, and when they finally pulled apart, the sun had fully set and the stars were beginning to emerge. "Should we go tell everyone?" Maya asked. "In a minute. First, I just want to stand here with you and be grateful for that storm, for your kindness in picking up a stranger, for every moment that led us here." They married 6 months later, in the barn event space they had built together. It was a perfect ceremony, small and intimate, with just close friends and family. Margaret flew in from Arizona and cried through the entire service. Maya's parents beamed from the front row, having quickly grown to love Adrian despite their initial concerns about the speed of the relationship. Antonio outdid himself with the food, and Grace decorated the space with flowers from the garden Maya had started that spring. When Adrian and Maya exchanged vows, there was not a dry eye in the house. Adrian promised to love her, to support her dreams, to be her partner in building a life and legacy together. Maya promised to challenge him, to keep him grounded, to remind him every day what really mattered. Their first dance was to a song about coming home, and as Adrian held Maya close, he whispered, "I've loved you since the moment you laughed, and I'll love you every moment for the rest of our lives." "That's good," Maya whispered back, "because you're stuck with me now." They honeymooned in Italy. 2 weeks of exploring ancient cities and tiny villages, eating incredible food and making love in charming hotels. It was magical and perfect, but both of them were genuinely happy to return to the lodge, to their home. Over the next few years, Peak Haven thrived. The event space became known throughout the region, booking weddings and corporate retreats and special celebrations months in advance. Maya's marketing initiatives brought in a steady stream of guests, and the renovations Adrian had implemented made the lodge more comfortable without sacrificing its character. But more importantly, Maya and Adrian built a life together. They worked side by side, making decisions together, supporting each other through challenges and celebrating victories. They established traditions, like Sunday morning hikes and Friday night dinners with the staff. They created a rhythm that balanced work and relationship, ambition and contentment. 2 years after their wedding, Maya discovered she was pregnant. She told Adrian on the anniversary of the day they met, presenting him with a tiny onesie that read, "Future Lodge Manager." Adrian had cried, actually cried, holding Maya close and whispering thank you over and over. They prepared for parenthood together, converting one of the owner's suite rooms into a nursery, reading parenting books, and taking classes in the nearby town. Their daughter, Emma, was born on a snowy January morning, with Adrian by Maya's side throughout the labor, holding her hand and coaching her breathing. When the doctor placed the tiny, screaming baby in Maya's arms and Adrian leaned over to see his daughter for the first time, Maya saw love transform his face yet again. "She's perfect," he whispered. "You're both perfect." Parenthood changed them, deepened them in ways they could not have anticipated. Adrian scaled back his work even further, determined to be present for every milestone, every moment. Maya navigated the balance of motherhood and career, grateful for the flexibility that came with running a business with her husband. Emma grew up running through the lodge's halls, beloved by staff and guests alike. She took her first steps in the main lobby, said her first word in the kitchen while Antonio was cooking, and learned to swim in the lake with Tom teaching her. When Emma was 3, Maya became pregnant again, this time with twins. 2 boys, James and Alexander, who brought even more chaos and joy into their lives. The owner's suite expanded to accommodate the growing family, and Adrian joked that they were creating their own dynasty of future lodge managers. But the twins had other ideas. James was fascinated by cooking, spending hours in the kitchen with Antonio, while Alexander loved the outdoors, following Tom around and learning about maintenance and nature. Emma, for her part, showed an early talent for organization and people skills that suggested she might indeed follow in her parents' footsteps. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Maya and Adrian sat on their bench by the lake, watching the sunset as they had done countless times before. The kids were with Grace for the evening, giving them rare time alone. "You ever regret it?" Adrian asked. "Taking a chance on a stranded millionaire?" Maya laughed, the sound that had first captured his heart. "Not for a single second. You? Never. Best storm of my life." He pulled her close, and she rested her head on his shoulder. "Maya, I want you to know something. Everything good in my life, everything that matters, it all started with you. You taught me what love really means, what home really is. You gave me a family, a purpose, a reason to be grateful every single day." "You gave me those things too," Maya said softly. "Before you, I was content, but I didn't understand what it meant to be truly happy, to feel completely seen and loved. You changed my world, Adrian." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the mountains turn purple in the fading light. After all these years, they still found peace in these quiet moments together, still marveled at the life they had built from a chance encounter during a storm. Back at the lodge, their children were probably driving Grace crazy with their energy. The event space was already booked solid for the next year. The staff was happy and stable, many of them now second-generation employees. Peak Haven Lodge had never been more successful or more beloved. But sitting there by the lake, none of that mattered as much as the man beside her, the love they shared, the family they had created. Maya thought back to that rainy night when she had stopped for a stranger, how a single act of kindness had transformed both their lives in ways neither could have imagined. "I love you," she said, turning to kiss Adrian softly. "I love you too. Always have, from the moment you laughed. Always will." As they walked back to the lodge hand in hand, the lights glowing warmly in the windows, Maya felt a profound sense of gratitude. for the storm that had brought them together, for every moment since, for the life they had built and the future still ahead. She had found her home, not just in the mountains or the lodge, but in Adrian, in their children, in the love that had started with a laugh and grown into something beautiful and lasting. And that, Maya thought as they stepped inside to the sound of their children's laughter, was the greatest adventure of all.